intermediaries, or sponsors. Encouraging, educating, and empowering you into action. This is Warriors Talk with your host, Lady ReShell.
Hello. Welcome to Warriors Talk with author and founder Lady ReShell, where we move away from awareness towards action. This is Health and Wellness Monday, and our topic for today is benefits and risks of vaccines and coping with the holiday blues, COVID-19. We just heard from Roman with the Drive at 5 with his special holiday show. Keep it locked right here on Intellectual Radio and allow us to feed your brain. The show is being sponsored by Emanuel Church of God in Christ, located at 3058 West Van Buren in Chicago, with Pastor Michael Richardson. They are still practicing social distancing, so you can catch the Word of God every Sunday morning at 10:15 a.m. on the Facebook page, Emanuel Cogic. Our quote of the day is, mental health is not a destination, but a process. It's about how you drive, not where you're going. Your trending topics for today are the stimulus update, an agreement for $9 billion COVID-19 relief package. They actually reached an agreement last night for $600 direct payments. $600 direct payments, that is. So Senator Majority Leader Mitchell McConnell announced late Sunday night that lawmakers have finalized an economic relief package valued at $9 billion. According to the New York Times, the slimmed down stimulus package still provides direct payments and jobless aid to individuals, as well as funds for small businesses, hospitals, schools, and vaccine distribution. The agreement reached following a months-long stalemate came only hours before the federal government was set to run out of funds. So per the agreement, individuals will receive $600 each, which is actually half paid out of the $2.2 trillion stimulus law that happened back in March. And it's a major difference because now you're only going to receive $600 per person in the household. The agreement revives supplements federal unemployment benefits for $300 per week, also, which is half that was distributed back in the first wave. Also trending, police, firefighters, teachers, grocery store workers will be among the next in line to receive the COVID vaccine, according to the Center for Disease Control and Prevention Advisory Board. The committee voted 13-1, recommending that phase 1B include people aged 75 years old and frontline essential workers. Phase 1C will include people 65 to 74, and then people 16 to 64 who have a high-risk medical conditions, along with other essential workers. So those are your trending topics for today. If you are tuned in on any form of social media, please like and share the show. Invite somebody else in on the show. I guarantee you that this information will be very valuable. Hello, Brenda. Thank you for tuning in. Joining me today is none other than our healthy solutions expert with over 20 years experience as a family physician, and she is impacting lives every day. Hello, Dr. Michelle.
Hello, Lady ReShell. How are you today?
I'm good. I can't believe we are already in December, a couple of days away from Christmas. And I'm excited. And then again, I'm burnt out. I'm burnt out as well.
Yes. 2020 has been a trying year for all of us. I think, we're getting through it. We're in a season now where we're, grateful and thankful. And I think people see hope on the horizon. What a time for that. So as bad as 2020 has been, I'm very hopeful that 2021 will be much better.
Yes. Looking forward to a year of change.
Yes.
So today's topic is we're going to talk about the benefits and risks of vaccines and then coping with the holiday blues with COVID-19. We don't want to leave out the holiday blues. because we know a lot of people may be suffering in silence from that. So, Dr. Michelle, it's a lot going on about this vaccine. You know, a lot of people have questions about the COVID-19 vaccine, and we have seen on the news that people have already been given the vaccine. So hopefully, you know, on this show today, we can answer some questions as it relates to the COVID-19 vaccine and what people need to know as far as what they should do. What's the right thing to do when it comes to the vaccine? So we know that it was released last week, where we seen on the news, we saw the different people taking the vaccines, the frontline workers, you know, stepping up because number one, they want to feel secure because they're in front of these patients every single day. And a lot of them have to go home to their families and they're afraid that, you know, they may pass it on to their families. And they're watching these people, you know, the people who are losing their lives to COVID, and they know up front what this vaccine means. So
Yes.
let's dive into the benefits and the risks of vaccines, period.
Yes.
Wherever
So, I mean, say that again.
Wherever you want to start.
Yeah, I mean, you brought up, you know, some great points, right? We have this vaccine that gives people a lot of hope that we can get through the pandemic. But as you said, the vaccines have to get into people, right? The healthcare workers, first line, because they are in contact with the high risk sick people. But the vaccine is great. It's 94% effective, but it does nothing if people don't put it in their arm and get vaccinated so they become immune. And so when we talk about vaccines, right, what is the benefit of a vaccine, right? The vaccine will help to prevent you from two things, getting sick if you're exposed to the virus, or getting a severe infection if you are exposed to the virus. Kind of like when we talk about the flu vaccine, right? The flu vaccine in general is about, you know, annually about 30% effective, maybe give or take a little bit more, right? But we talk a lot about the flu vaccine and encourage people to get it. And that's why we in the medical community were so excited when we saw a 94% efficacious rate for this, right? It's really unheard of. But they've done lots of great research. Getting back to, you know, how fast this vaccine seems to have come about. I mean, they have been studying for at least 10 years this mRNA type of vaccines, right? It wasn't something that just came about in January. They had done research on it, but now we had the opportunity to put that research into action and be able to provide this vaccine what seemed quicker, but based on research that had been ongoing for years. And we, you know, as lay people wouldn't know that that had been going on. So to lay people, it does seem like, wow, this came about quickly. But there's been lots of research behind the scenes so that when this came about, boom, we know what to do. Let's, you know, replicate the vaccine. Let's get this out to people. So I think that the benefit is great. It outweighs the risks. The people who shouldn't really get vaccines, right, are those who have severe allergic reaction to any vaccine or any of the components of the COVID-19 vaccine. And you can ask your provider to look into what all those components are. But if you've ever had severe reactions to vaccines, anaphylaxis, where you get short of breath, you can't breathe, your blood pressure drops, you shouldn't get this vaccine. If you are in a acute an illness right now where you have a fever and you really don't feel well, then you should wait until that illness is over and you have recuperated before you get a vaccine as well. So there's certain, you know, risks in play. We ask when you get any vaccine, you probably know already, there's a lot of questions that we ask you about previous reactions, any medications, anything like that. But in this case, we really feel that for those people who are offered the vaccine because of your risk, be it your comorbid conditions, if you have diabetes, hypertension, if you're obese, that alone puts you at higher risk for severe illness from COVID. We really would like you to take that vaccine. But I know people do have concerns about it.
Yeah, do you feel like the government has done a good job at educating the public on this vaccine enough to where we would be like, okay, yeah. Do you think the education portion has been effective?
Right. Yeah. So maybe not as good, especially in our communities, as it needs to be. I think that what we're seeing now that the vaccine is available is you're seeing people like myself and other, African American healthcare workers and Latin healthcare workers and just people who we can trust talk more about it. Um, Going along as the vaccine was getting developed, we didn't hear a lot of information about it, right? We heard like, oh, it's coming down, it'll be here any minute. And so people do have a little bit of hesitation about that. I think now we're hearing more and more, we're seeing people on the news talk more about it and the importance of actually getting the vaccine in your arm. But you're right, some of it is technical, right? When we talk about this mRNA vaccine and what does it mean, and how does it work? We could go into the technical of that, which is, the mRNA makes this specific spike protein. People hear about this spike protein, and that spike protein is what's on the surface of the virus. So when we take just that protein, we're not taking the whole virus, we're taking that protein that usually is on the surface of the virus. And we're taking actually, about DNA, right, in our system. Well, the mRNA helps to make that spike protein. So that's kind of what is in the vaccine. So when you inject that, your body recognizes that this is a foreign thing, right? It shouldn't be there, and it mounts an immune response. Just like if you're exposed to the actual virus, right? The body recognizes that that's not something that should be in your body and mounts an immune response. But what we're doing here is we're giving you this piece, right, that says, this isn't part of my body. Let me mount an immune response to it. So now you develop those antibodies, just like if you were actually exposed to the virus, that fights the infection if you're ever to get exposed again in the future.
Okay, so there's a question. I'm sorry, go ahead. There's a
Yes,
question.
I saw that question pop up. Yep. Does insurance companies cover the cost? Yes. And they should be. It should be free to you. But check with your insurance to be sure. But that was my understanding that for anyone who wants the vaccine, that should be covered 100% by your insurance company. But verify all of that with your company.
Because it's like I'm thinking it's like any other vaccine that we take, right? And normally those vaccines are covered.
That's
We
correct.
normally don't even hear or know about what that price is. We just go in and get the vaccine. What about natural immunity? Like, are we not? Is that not effective in this
Right.
case?
Yeah. So when you're exposed to any foreign agent, foreign body, right? Our bodies are great things, right? It recognizes that it shouldn't be there, and you develop what we call this immune response, which would then be your natural immunity to that virus, right? So some people get exposed to the virus, their immune system reacts to that, and they do great. They're able to fight off that virus and they do well. It's like the flu, right? We know people who have mild flu infections, their body does really well with their natural immune response. And then some people don't do very well based on other factors, right? Their other conditions, what is their health status? Some people are not able to mount enough of an immune response, even though they mount some, but the virus overtakes it. The virus keeps replicating in their body and it becomes overwhelming to the system.
So what would you say to people who say, I never get the flu shot and I never get the flu, and then you talk to people who have gotten the flu shot and who have gotten the flu. So it's like,
Yeah. So I'll start with the second part first, right? So when you get the vaccine, just like the COVID vaccine, it takes about 1 to 2 weeks after you receive the vaccine to have enough immunity. right? So I will tell patients all the time when I give them a flu vaccine that this vaccine is going to be in about 2 weeks, you'll have enough immune response. So if you leave my office and you get exposed to the flu tomorrow, you could get the actual flu, right? Because you don't have enough immune response yet. The other piece is some people will mistake that immune response to the vaccine as them getting the flu. When you get a vaccine, because again, your body is mounting an immune response to that vaccine, as it would if you got the actual virus, you may feel a little achy, right? You may feel a little achy, you may get a low grade temperature, you may not feel good for 24 hours. That's not the actual flu or the actual infection. That's the immune response. That's how you know your body is actually doing what it's supposed to do.
Are
Um,
are
so,
those
so
I'm sorry, are those considered the risks of getting the vaccine when you feel those symptoms?
No, that's a normal reaction to vaccines. That's a normal reaction, not really a risk. We would be more concerned if someone became like developed a horrible rash or had shortness of breath after their vaccine. After any vaccine, we try to monitor people for about 15 minutes at least to see if they're going to get an immediate reaction. In addition, telling them to, take Tylenol for those first 24 hours if you're having symptoms. Because many people do have that after a vaccine, but that's a normal response to getting any vaccination. And for those people who never got the flu, thank goodness they did not, right? And they may have a great immune response, or they may just have not been exposed to the flu as yet.
So your overall view of getting the vaccine, one of the benefits is
That it gives you an immune response without having to be exposed to the virus. So that if you ever are exposed to that virus, you're already protected from getting serious infection, right? Because the hope is if enough people get vaccinated, then you have so many people that are now immune and won't spread the illness any further. Because in every population, there's some people who just can't get vaccinated, right? So we're also protecting those people that can't get vaccinated.
so you're speaking of the herd immunity, correct? What you just
Right. So yes, yes. When you talk about herd immunity, it's not we want so many people to get sick so that there's enough immunity in the population. Herd immunity is about vaccination, right? Vaccinate enough people so we have enough people who are immune, right? So that it protects the one person who may not be immune or can't get the vaccine for whatever reason. Remember, we said if you've ever had severe reactions to vaccines, then you shouldn't get the vaccine. But if everybody else in that room got the vaccine, then that person's protected, right, from getting infection.
right. So if you get the vaccine, say we're talking about the COVID, so if you get the COVID vaccine, I heard that you still have to wear the mask. Now, if I'm getting a vaccine and this is supposed to protect me, then why am I still wearing the mask?
Right. So we know that nothing's 100% effective. We know that for the first vaccine, we believe the efficacious rate is about 54%, right? So you still have a 50% chance that you could get infected and get an illness. So that's the main reason, right? And then the next vaccine for the Pfizer vaccine is due in 3 weeks after your first shot. For the Moderna, which was just sort of released this week, you get that 4 weeks after your first. So after the 3 weeks and the fourth week, when you get your second vaccine, then you're thought to be 94, 95% effective for immunity. So at least we want you to be still wearing your mask going forward until we know we have that quote herd immunity, right? that everybody is been vaccinated and the numbers in your community are much lower, right? Because still you have some risk until the greater number of people to be vaccinated, which decreases your risk. But you are right? After the second dose, you are thought to be 94% protected from that virus.
So what happens if I go to take the first dose and then I'm like, I'm not going back to take that second one? Like, nah, I'm good. And you feel like you're covered. See, a lot of people may not know that you got to get the both of them in order for that 95% to be effective. So what if I'm not going back to that second dose?
So after the first one, right, they give you a card to tell you exactly when you should come back for your second one. Understanding that, right, if you don't get the second vaccine, your immunity is much less. Even if you are more than 3 to 4 weeks from the first. Let's say you got the first one and 2 months later, you're like, okay, maybe I'll go get that second one. We still want you to come back for your second one, okay? But the study was done with 3 weeks for the Pfizer and 4 weeks for the Moderna, right? So we would like patients to come back in that amount of time because that's when the study was done. And that's the data we have, right? So we give the Pfizer vaccine within 17 to 21 days after the first shot. We know that you're 94%. It's 94% effective.
Oh, this is a great question that Rizal has. He says, with the new strand that has been newly mutated, will the vaccine fight the new virus because it was developed under the old virus?
Yeah. So far, what we know is that, yes, that virus seems to be more easily transmitted, but the data we have says that the vaccine that we have should work against that virus as well, right? As well. So even though we look, what the researchers do, they see when this new strain of the coronavirus has come about. And then they still do testing with that virus and that vaccine, right? What we call in vitro, right? Not in a person, but in a lab to see if it still kills the virus. So we know that it's still effective against that virus, but seems to be more infectious to people. Yes. So more information will come out about that. I mean, we're just hearing about it. I just heard when I was listening to the news that maybe it affects younger people a little bit more, but we'll see what the data shows and what comes from that. But again, the good thing is so far, it still looks like the vaccine is effective.
Is there a difference, Doc Michelle, in the Moderna and the Pfizer COVID vaccine?
Yeah, they're very similar. They're both that mRNA type of vaccine. However, they were developed. The Moderna vaccine, doesn't need that very, very cold storage, which is great because, the Pfizer vaccine, even though they're very similar, if you get one that's very similar to the other, the Pfizer vaccine just really requires deep freeze, minus 90 degrees Fahrenheit temperature. So that one is better sort of stored in hospitals, right, that have big freezers and so forth. That's not as easily storage for offices and for your CVS pharmacy, right, and things like that. And so the Moderna right now will be easier for offices and hospitals to sort of manage and store. And I do believe we have other vaccines. I believe I heard 5 to 6 other vaccines that will be coming down the line, and we'll learn more about those as we hear more about those.
Awesome. Yeah. So if you're just tuning in, this is Warriors Talk on Intellectual Radio, and I'm talking to Doc Michelle, and we're talking about the benefits and the risks of vaccines. And she's given us some valuable information, just breaking down what the COVID-19 vaccination is all about and why it's important for you to not only vaccinate yourself, but as for the people around you as well. So I had a question about, what if I already had the COVID-19 virus? Like, I already had it, so why do I need to get this vaccine if I already fought it? Why do I need it?
Right. We still recommend the COVID vaccine, even if you've had COVID-19. Remember, we think that with the natural COVID infection, that there may be some waning to the immunity. So we think that if you've had COVID, that you may have enough antibodies for about 90 days for immunity. So it's best that you still get that COVID-19 vaccine, regardless of if you've had COVID previously.
So you can get reinfected.
Yeah, so it's rare. It's rare that people have gotten reinfected with COVID, but there have been some rare occurrences of people getting reinfected after that 90-day period. But usually within those 90 days, you're thought to be still immune if you actually had the COVID infection.
I think what would really help a lot of people maybe want to get this vaccine is if we saw, the people in government stepping up to do it, and I know, I think I saw a couple of people that has done it. Like, I don't know if Dr. Fauci has done it yet, and he would be one of the main people that I want to see. And I don't know did you see him do it?
He's getting it tomorrow. That's what was the latest. Yes, he's supposed to get it tomorrow. President-elect Biden and his wife got it today. So, and I believe former President Obama will be getting it soon as well. So I think many people, even on social media, we're seeing doctors, show that they're getting it as well. And they're even posting if they've had any symptoms, right, within 24 hours, or how they felt and what they did.
So what do you think about some of these places that have stopped giving the vaccine because of the adverse side effects that people have been feeling?
Yeah, well, there was one facility, I forget which one, Advocate Aurora, that had some reactions, and they did a little bit of research into that to see what those, was there a history of adverse reactions in those people. And I believe the percentage even was very, very low, because they had given thousands of shots, and I believe it was about 4 people that had a reaction. But they restarted giving their vaccines as well. They've restarted that after looking into it. But again, if you have concern about getting the vaccine, I encourage you to talk to your provider, get the information from the right source. But it's recommended for, pretty much everyone over 18 is who was studied. And we're hoping that everyone who wants the vaccine will be able to get it by, late spring, especially those high-risk people, even beyond our healthcare workers, right? We're talking about the elderly. We're talking about people who, are 50s, 60s, 70s, who have comorbid conditions that are fearful of going out and being able to live their lives, and it's the only way right now that we have to get through and past this pandemic is for everyone to get vaccinated. Think about, your loved ones who have been home alone, and we'll talk about, the holiday blues, but people who have been home for 10 months, unable to go out just out of fear, right? If they already had anxiety, it's just been escalated, by this, who have seen loved ones, die and be deathly ill from COVID. So think about those people who it's too late for them now to get a vaccine, but we have something that we can do to even, honor those people and protect the ones who are here, those, elderly people around us as well.
So I know that they're rolling this out in phases. And I think they said 16 to 64 would be one of the phases after they do the 75 years old. So what's with the children? Because if they did the study on a certain age, 18 and above, then how are we going to inject this into our children and know that it is safe if it wasn't studied on children?
Right. So right now, it's not recommended for children less than 18. They are doing those ongoing studies on younger children, but right now it is recommended for over 18, and especially those high risk individuals. Yes.
Okay.
And they do have the different phases, as you mentioned.
Rizal said, when no one wanted to take the vaccine because no one really trusted as of yet, is it safe to continue to allow your body to continue to try and fight it off?
Right. Well, we've talked before, ReShell, about boosting your immune system, right? There are certain things that I believe that you can do on your own so that if you become infected with it, that it is a mild illness. That goes to exercising. That's eating a plant-based diet. That's getting your vitamin C and your vitamin D, which is also in our plant-based diet. But if not, take a supplement. So your vitamin C, your vitamin D, your zinc, right? Those things that are in the over-the-counter cold remedies, right? Because we know that those things, we believe, have a role in boosting our immune system, and they play a factor in the immune response. So it's really important, even beyond getting a vaccine, to do the other things, right? Simple things like getting enough sleep boost your immune system, exercising, eating right, not smoking, not drinking. Those things help to keep your immune system healthy so that you are able to fight off any illness, any virus, from the cold virus to the flu virus to the COVID-19 virus, if you should be exposed.
I'm glad you brought that up because, there are some things that we can do on our own when it comes to this, boosting up our own immune system, and just not take for granted, the information that's out there that will help us do that. And it's so much information out there, to where we don't have to be, really swallowing all these pills and stuff. I mean, if you have to take the supplement, do it. I take an immunity supplement to boost my immune system because I had the cancer and my immune system was attacked. So, I have to make sure that, I am doing things to make sure that my immune system is intact so that if I was to get COVID, that it wouldn't wipe me out because my immune system, I've been working on it and I exercise and, I eat a plant-based diet. So there are things that we can do on our own, to make sure our immune system is, where it should be. And it's a work in progress. I'm not saying it's going to get there overnight, it's a work in progress.
Yeah. Yeah, we've talked about that on many of your shows about, arming your body and being ready to fight. When in the spring, when I would talk to, nurses and, people about, you don't want to get COVID, but here's what you can do if you get exposed, be ready, right? Have your body ready and your immune system ready to fight it off. So do those things that we've talked about on so many calls, right? Making sure you're getting 7 to 8 hours of sleep. People, that's the first thing to go when we're stressed out, right? We're not sleeping. I know. We all are. We could think of 6 million other things to do besides laying down and getting rest, okay? But very true. We have to get that 7 to 8 hours. It allows our body to replenish itself. And then the vitamins and the plant-based diet, the Mediterranean diet, which is basically a plant-based diet. Your listeners can look that up and see all the great things in the Mediterranean diet, as well as getting 30 minutes of exercise on a daily basis. Very key.
Yes, I mean, we have a lot of power in our hand on things that we can do. So again, like Dr. Michelle said, an example would be the soldiers preparing for war. And whenever they get ready to go to war, they'll be ready because they have been preparing for it. They don't wait until someone declare war and they decide, okay, everybody, let's get together and we're going to practice. You shoot this. No, they ready. So when it happens, and that's the same thing with your body, start arming yourself right now with the best defense of food, exercise, and supplements that you can to help you fight off, the infections. That was some powerful information that you gave. I think a lot of people want that peace of mind, about this COVID-19 vaccine. They want that peace of mind to say, okay, if I go and get this vaccine, that, it's not going to harm me and that I am going to be helping other people around me by getting this vaccine.
Yes, yes. I mean, that is the peace of mind, right? That you feel that now you have done something to be more in control, right? Because we kind of felt a loss of control during this pandemic, right? You didn't know where you were going to get it, how you were going to get it, what can I do to protect myself? Is it safe to go outside? And it's very stressful. And you felt like, the things that you had control of was wearing your mask, being socially distant, and those things. And here's another piece to that, to the control. What can you do? You can get that vaccine, right? You can get yourself protected, which protects you and all your loved ones around you. And now you feel freer to go out to do things. The stress level will go down, right? It's important. People are missing the connection of a hug, and seeing their, friends and family. It's been a very stressful year. It's been a very stressful year. And I think that the vaccine is a way through this. And I really, really hope that people will get that vaccination in their arms, and so we can get that herd immunity for our population and have a great 2021.
That was a good transition about people, missing that connection with their families. And we know that a lot of other people are suffering right now. It's the holidays, and around the holidays, I'm one of those people who, since my father passed and this was his holiday, like I don't really like the holiday. Like he would decorate the house and the house would just be lit up outside and everybody on the block would be competing with him to, put as many lights on their house. And it's like now when I go to my parents' house, my mom, she put up the tree and she may put up one string of lights. And we're like, no, you have to keep up the tradition. She's like, I'm not doing that. And it's just like, I don't really even like to go by there on Christmas because I know it's not going to be, like it was when he was here. So,
yeah.
She's celebrating in her own way because that's her way of doing it. But
right. And she's and part of when we get around the holidays, we want everything to be so perfect, and we put a stress on ourselves, right, to make it, just as perfect as it can be. But if we release that and do what we can do, and it's okay to say no, to things, but this year it's so much more, so much different, because we have people who have suffered so much loss, right? And they're grieving and they're lonely and they're sad and they're worried about, finances. And there's so many other factors beyond what we normally deal with, at the holidays. And it's important that we take care of ourselves and each other around this time. Taking care of ourselves, just being able to relax and do the things that we enjoy. If it's we talked about this on your shows before, listening to music, reading, think about the thing that brings you joy that you used to always want to do. And maybe, do that for yourself, so that you feel taken care of as well. Because a lot of us too are also are caregivers to our elderly parents, and that has even picked up, right, in the pandemic era, because we don't want our parents to go out to the grocery store, right? We're going to bring the food and take care of whatever we need to. So even that piece has been stressful. So it's important to take care of ourselves and still feel connected as much as we can with our loved ones. If we can't travel, everybody's doing Zoom things, sending a card, writing a note, to your elderly aunt or whoever is in your family that has been more alone through this pandemic, right? What would that mean to them?
So the holiday blues to somebody else, when you think of the holiday blues, you think of, somebody's just sad, you'd be like, oh, just get over it, do something fun and you'll get over it. But for some people, it may not be that simple.
Right. For a lot of people, it's not, especially if they've already had some depression and anxiety, right? And this is just amplifies those feelings already. If they've ever lost someone around this time of year, that amplifies those symptoms. And it's important to acknowledge how you feel and seek help, right? People think that they are the only ones that are suffering with how they're feeling, but it's important to know that they're not alone and to reach out for help. That might be to their provider, to seek help. If they have insurance, they can seek help through their insurance by calling their insurance and getting a behavioral health therapist. So even though a lot of, during the pandemic, a lot of doctors couldn't see people in the office or you couldn't get to your therapist, there is telehealth visits available. So if you're out there and you're feeling overwhelmed, we want you to reach out and get the help that you need.
What if the holidays have passed and this is like January or February and I'm still feeling, down? Like,
Yeah.
do I still have the holiday blues, or should I be, thinking that this is more and I need some type of help?
Right. So if those symptoms are lingering past the holidays, right? If you're into 2 months, and you're still feeling down, and a lot of people will sort of just live that way, right? They're like, this is how I am. This is what I do. And one of the things I like to ask, I will ask patients, well, when you wake up in the morning, do you feel pretty happy, ready to go and start your day? Or do you just feel blah all day and just sort of moving through the things, right? Do you do things that you enjoy or, that bring you pleasure? So there's certain things that we have to think about. And sometimes we normalize when we feel blah, right? And it's upon our maybe friends or family, if they notice a change in someone, to address it, to acknowledge it, to ask, hey, you feeling okay? You've been seeming kind of down lately. I know this has been a hard year. I know you just lost so and so. If you're feeling down, please, let's talk about it. And so it may be on us who notice some behaviors that have changed to bring that out and start that conversation, because a lot of people, mental health and depression is not something people want to talk about easily at all. And so those friends can really help bridge that conversation by you starting the conversation with someone.
Yes.
But if it's lingering, we want you to get help.
Get some help. Brenda said, yes, thank you, Doc. I can remember a couple of weeks ago, I was talking to my mom and she sounded kind of slurred, and I sat on the phone and I'm asking her questions, just kind of listening to her voice, and I'm thinking like, did she have a stroke? Is she having a stroke? Like what's something is not right,
Right.
And she was like, I'm having problems with my phone. Like, it's my phone, I'm gonna call you back. And so like an hour later, my niece contacted me and she's like, I'm in the emergency room with your mom. My mom is a diabetic, so her levels was really high. And come to find out, her sodium was low. Really low. Mm-hmm. So they ended up keeping her overnight, and working with her to get the sodium, level. So they got it level and they released her the next day. But, just me hearing her voice, I knew something was not right. It was like, okay, something. And I really thought it was a stroke just because it sounded really slurred. And I'm like, okay, something's not right. So it is important, like you said, to start the conversations, to call them, even, the video call so you can see them, hear their voice, that's not right.
Yes, so important, because especially with, some of our elders, they're not necessarily one that want to say that something is not right, because they don't, first of all, they may not want you to take them to the doctor, right? They don't want to bother you. I mean, there's lots of reasons. And so we, as the younger of them, reach out. Do they sound right? Do they look good? Do they seem happy? Do they have food? What do you need? What do you need, Mom? What do you need, Grandma? Just to let them know that you care, because it's tough. It's tough, and especially in the holidays now, it's even more tougher and more amplified. So the holiday blues are, a real thing, and it's worse now. So I just say that if you need help, reach out, take care of yourself. And we go back to always eating healthy foods, exercise, get your sleep, say no to certain things, don't put too much pressure on yourself to make it just perfect. If you are having family around, and if you are, making sure that you still wear your mask, especially if you're having someone there that's high risk, because you just never know. As you've heard about in the last few weeks, that a lot of the contagiousness has been amongst friends and family, right? Because we put our guard down with them and things happen.
That's so true. A lot of times I see people, and this irritates me so much, when I see people talking to me and their mask is like here, and I can see your nose. It's just like,
right.
I need you to cover your nose. Like,
Yes.
please, like not
Yes.
just for me, but for yourself too. Like,
yes.
And it's over your mouth, but it's not covering your nose. Like, just even learning the proper way to even wear the mask, so that you can be protected.
People have mask fatigue too, right? We do not want to wear a mask, but I put that thing on and I secure it all on my nose to make sure. I'm like, okay, let me just get through the grocery store and be done and get back in my car. But I'm gonna do it, and
Sometimes
that's what it takes.
Dr. Michelle, sometimes I'll hop out of the car and I'll get in the store, and then I'm walking and I'm like, but now I started keeping a mask in my purse so that I pulled it out, put it on. But sometimes, it's like, even though we've been doing it since March, sometimes I've gotten out of that car and gotten sometimes up to the door and be like, oh, shoot,
I said, make it an easy choice. I keep one in my purse. I have two in my car. I mean, you just have to. So you just don't forget. Don't forget.
Yes, totally agree. What we started doing with my mom, Dr. Michelle, is my sister decided to make this binder, right? Because she's 75. So we make this binder of like everything that's wrong with her is typed out, has a picture on the front of it. So whoever comes to the house, grandkids, kids, whoever, the binder is on the table. It has all of the medications she's taken, how many times she takes the medication, what side effects, the medication has. Right. So if she's acting a certain way, we'd be like, okay, at this time she took this pill, to double check to see, has she even taken the medicine, and my mom is one of those people that she gets around on her own. She's driving, she's doing her own thing. She's always going places, but then we still realize that she's 75. So she's getting up in age, and, she has some health issues, and although she has been managing them well, and by her being in the hospital last week, is like, okay, you guys, maybe we need to just keep a close eye on her, just to figure out what's to make sure that, number one, since my father passed, she's by herself. She's in that house by herself, and she doesn't want to move with anybody. When they get old, they don't want to move their environment. So, my niece is there with her, every so often she's there. And thank God my niece was there that night, because she probably would have went to sleep, may not have woken up or whatever. Right. So, so I'm glad that she was there. So, the binder is there for us to know what's going on with her, so nobody's in the dark. You come over there, the binder's on the table, don't move it, just so we know what's going on in our family. Everybody know what's going on, and I think that, if we can really just be real with ourselves when it comes to, the different illnesses that we deal with. And, I think that, people can be a lot safer. Our elderly people can be a lot safer because they know that, we're just going to come over there. Hey, Mom, how you doing? And we drop stuff off and leave. And no, let me look at your face. Let me look at have you eaten today? Have you taken your medicine? Right. Just take a little extra time. Even if you're stand on the porch with your mask on and she's behind the door, have that conversation,
Yes. Yeah, we could do a whole nother show about taking care and being a caregiver, as I am as myself too, because that is a lot that we take on too when we have elderly parents. But you make a great point, right? But again, checking in on them, because they may not recognize certain things that we would. And they have not been around. If they've been at home and they haven't really been out and around other people, it's important that we kind of put our antennas up and pay attention to how they're talking to you. Do they seem down? Is there something different in their medical condition that they may not recognize? All very, very important things. And I know it's hard. I see a question here. It's very hard to breathe with your mask on.
It is.
Well, it can feel different. Yes, yes. Those surgical masks, I mean, surgeons wear those masks, 8-hour surgeries. So it is possible. It feels different. It feels like you may not be getting enough oxygen, but you are, because doctors we wear those all day. If you're in a surgery and you have an 8, 9, 10-hour surgery, you're in a mask, right? And they don't pass out. So even though it feels like it, some people get anxious to have something over their mouth and nose, right? Just take some, nice, slow breaths and just know that you are getting enough oxygen. They have done studies and no one's oxygen levels dropped from wearing a mask. Right? If your oxygen level is dropping, there's something else going on. So it is safe to wear your mask.
Awesome. Results said great information, Dr. Michelle. Give us some words of wisdom as it relates to the holiday blues, especially during COVID-19.
Yes, yes. So, I mean, I would say, important to take care of yourself, know your limitations, and seek help. Right? And that's for that person. And then for us, keep your antenna up. Pay attention to your friends. Call someone. If there's a family member that you normally don't talk to or call, very often, do it this holiday season, because this is a holiday season like no other. Hopefully not to be seen again in our lifetimes, but take that 5 minutes, take a second out. I talked to one of my aunts last week, I believe it was, and I don't talk to her often. She lives in Florida and she turned 84. So I just called her and we had a nice little conversation, about, how she's doing and, what's going on with her. Her husband is ill. And so we had, a good conversation. I'm sure it meant a lot to me and I'm sure it meant a lot to her too. So take that minute. You'll feel great after you do it as well, to reach out to someone in the midst of these holidays who could use an extra conversation and an extra smile.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Dr. Michelle. I appreciate you all year long. You have been lending us your expertise, and I'm just so grateful for it, for just, empowering the audience. And, they love it. They're giving you the feedback. They're saying it's a great show. They're saying thank you. So I just want you to know how much I appreciate you and the wisdom that you share on the show.
Thank you. And thank you for giving me the opportunity this year long to talk to your listeners. And this is what I enjoy doing is, spreading great information and empowering our communities to be healthy and wise about their health and doing the right thing and being proactive.
You never disappoint. So thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
You're welcome. I will leave you guys with these words of wisdom. Keep in mind that a come and go case of the holiday blues is not the same thing as a serious case of depression, which may require help from a certified medical professional. If you are having a hard time shaking off the holiday blues come January and February, seek help. Join me next Monday right here at 6 p.m. on Intellectual Radio. As always, thank you for tuning in to Warriors Talk with author and founder Lady ReShell, where we are changing lives one warrior at a time.
Take care.
Thank you for listening to this week's edition of Warriors Talk with Lady ReShell. To find out more about Warriors Talk, follow at Warriors Talk, the number 1, on all social media outlets, and Warriors Talk with Lady ReShell on YouTube. Please join us next week and every Monday evening at 6 p.m. Central Standard Time on intellectualradio.com for Warriors Talk with Lady ReShell, where we encourage, educate, and empower you into action.